Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a very special, extremely important episode of Cosmic Crit as we reflect on the last, if you can believe it or not, 83 adventures of the Attack of the Swarm playthrough.
Wow!
Exclamation point. This is the Season 3 Retrospective Extravaganza. And I'm your GM, Patrick, here, joined by 5 fellow players, Imagineers, and above all else, 5 of your friends and mine. Welcome to the podcast, Rebecca, Drew, Tyler, Jabert, and Miles.
Hey.
Hello.
How are you?
Last time I will ever introduce you guys in that order.
I miss being last.
Yeah. Yep. It's going to change in the future. Miles, that's the last time I call your name out last.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this peaceful respite from the first 2 seasons.
This peaceful
Because unless you put Rebecca last next season.
I was about to say, I mean, if things are like they have been in the last couple, then it's either going to be Gilberto or Rebecca, right? Oh, pressure's on you two.
Because if Rebecca's last,
some real stinkos.
It'll be a pleasant reading every week, just like it was one.
I'm voting for Jabert. Give me something. I just like it. It's more fun.
I want something weird.
I like it when the intro's a trash fire.
Speaking of trash fire intros, we got to introduce this episode because people might be a little confused as this is a special episode of the podcast, which, you know, don't go back and look at our episodes in the past where we have actually numbered a retrospective episode and not made it a special episode like at the end of season 2. That doesn't count. This is a special episode, and if you were paying attention, last week's episode was episode 199. This is not episode 200. What? The start of season 4 is going to commence with episode 200 in the future, maybe just a little later than you expect, as at the end of this episode tonight we have a special announcement about some more adventures the crew's going to be going on, so stick around.
We're just not ready to turn 200 yet. You know, like we this is a rare moment. You don't get to choose when you turn 30, but as a podcast you get to choose when you turn 200, and we're gonna do that.
And well, we're going to be announcing some things as we get closer to it, as we're going to have some giveaways and some other things for folks, especially folks that have been with us throughout the seasons, and our Crittermanders in the Discord and beyond who've helped us out, people on Patreon, special stuff over there as well. So I'm very excited to get to that, but announcement at the end of tonight's episode. But before we get to that, this week's episode, indeed special, as we are out of character tonight. We're just looking back at this campaign, the characters and the decisions that you guys have made along the way that led you from episode 1 to episode 83 of the season. So yeah, you guys survived a brutal war against the Swarm. Let's just dive into it. You survived dead planets and mindscapes and Swarm counterattacks, and everyone survived. I think I asked when you turned level 13 if you guys were surprised by that fact a couple weeks ago. But lots of dark themes, a lot of war themes in this season. You know, the trauma of facing impossible odds, seeing people dying around you, the memories of those you've lost in the war. Are you excited to be moving away? Ostensibly from one of the darker campaigns that has popped up in the Starfinder universe.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's like I said in my intro. The character I created, I don't think was perfectly matched for this story. but I also don't like looking into like what the nitty gritty of the story is going to be before I create a character. I just create a character I want to play.
Well, that works for what happens with the fifth in book one. There's
for sure
thrown in from all different walks of life. So
I do feel like just in general, I feel like Wynn would have been better suited for Attack of the Swarm, and Sprouts would have been much better suited for Against the Ion Throne.
That's kind of funny. That's a question. We'll be sprinkling in our listener questions throughout the evening tonight, but one of the ones we got was let me get the exact phrasing here. If you guys could mix and match a party member from a previous season within this campaign, or maybe switch it up. This is from the Double Doge on the Discord. Who'd be in the team? You think Wynn would have made a good
I think thematically
soldier?
I think thematically Wynn would have worked, I think, a little bit better. I enjoyed playing Sprouts so much, and I enjoyed him in the first couple books a lot, but I found that I had less I wanted to tinker with the character as the deeper we got into the story, because it was really a story for soldiers and for scientists and stuff, and not as much for a detective. And when we were in situations where we needed a detective, like the Temple of Hylax, that was fun to do. But I feel like Wynn could have had a more interesting story regarding the Xenowardens and stuff, and what they thought of the swarm and how they would have reacted. And I think there could have been a lot of stuff to play with that more so than Sprouts, who is one of my favorite characters that I've made. But it would definitely, I think I would have switched Wynn and Sprouts. I probably also would have built Wynn a little differently.
I kind of, a small part of me, I'm going to get probably some flack in the Discord for this. A small part of me sort of wished that in book 3, Devasha would have died and I could have brought Nikithi in book 4, because I think I would not want Devasho in Against the Aeon Throne. That would not have fit. I built Devasho specifically knowing that this was a wartime campaign and wanting to explore like
you had to have a tank on the battlefield.
The war, tank on the
battlefield. Opposite of what I did.
And the effect of like wartime fatigue and frustration on a large family unit. That was what I wanted to build when I made Devasho. That being said, man, it would have been fun for Nikithi and Zinnia to be in the same campaign doing like the biological research that they would have enjoyed against the swarm. I would have had a lot of fun, because Nikithi and Against the Aeon Throne nobody else, there was nothing for him to really study. He was only motivated so much into killing space Nazis. There would have been so much more interesting character motivation in the later half of the books with Nikithi coming on board.
I hear you, Tyler. I don't think we need 2 Burks.
Well, I was going to say, that would be really interesting. I wonder if Xenia and Nikithi, with being able to share perspectives, I wonder what that would have done to her arc, like if she would have had a different outcome or a different kind of perspective on things. But since she was a scientist out in the field, kind of alone and trying to grapple with what she was experiencing and observing without her home base and without another scientist to really bounce these things off of. But also, I think if Nikithi had been in the hive mind, we would have probably died.
Definitely.
Could there have been a hive mind itis?
I have no doubt that Nikithi would have been trying to secretly, or even not so secretly, with Zinnia, trying to splice swarm components into Idas.
Gross.
That would be straight up his alley.
Oh my goodness! What if it was just like a cicada husk of Idas?
And that would have been so cool. I just see so many cool things Nikithi could have gone through. However, the team needed a tank. There's just no. It's
that. Plus, you had that
exactly right. Like
that Tyler moment in the finale that you don't want to take away.
Oh no, I would never take it away. It's the only. I would never take any. I would never take Adros out of season 1, and I would never put anyone else into season 1. But
same.
I would have if I could have had Nikithi in season 3 at some point. I think that would have been very fun. Even if it was just for like a few parts of the adventure. I think that would have been very interesting.
If Devasho had died in the Imago bug, that would have been, like I said, probably a pretty good point to bring in a level 7 character from season 2.
Yeah, and it would have had there would be a pretty easy write-in reason, for him as just a fellow.
I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't write him into the end of the season at all.
Yeah, so I think that would have been super interesting. But one Thresher Lord walks up to him and he's in 6 pieces. There's just no denying that. So
yeah. Flavor wise, I do think this is a gritty campaign. Obviously, there are grittier parts of seasons 1 and 2, and there will be in season 4. But I think for the most part, this one had a bit of a different feel. At least it started very differently, a little darker than APs in the past.
I really liked the military aspects of it. I wish there was more of it. There were a few times where I felt like it kind of lost its way.
Yeah, occasionally it would just sort of be like, all right, we did some military stuff. Now time to dungeon dive, everybody. It's like,
well, I feel that's the problem when you have a large AP like this is you can't have it be all military all the time. It's not, that flavor is not going to last that long. Well, it's not a gobstopper.
You can do dungeon crawls.
I would say,
but instead of they could have been more like focus strikes. There's ways to flavor it that would make it seem more military driven. There was just a point in time where I just really felt like our characters were just wandering around with no supervision whatsoever.
Book 3. We went off to this asteroid planet.
Well, that's a very
even before that
mission.
We went to a planet which was the refuge that were like the other planet, the city
Forever
planet.
Reliquary.
No, this is before the Forever Reliquary. When we're going after this group of cultists that were like, we shut down their propaganda campaign. It's like,
yeah.
All that stuff.
Yeah,
works,
they're trying to get people to join up the cult. And perform acts of sedition.
Yeah,
we stopped Q.
I would say that. You got to balance it out because you can't have 6 books of old military stories. I would say it's probably 3 books. Like books 2 and 3 are like kind of 50-50 with the, the attack on the Imago, and in book 2 you have soldiering at home.
I was really disappointed. Like, I really liked. I both liked and was disappointed in some of the book 6 stuff where we were redropping into Bernoa, and I thought, oh cool, we get to disperse troops, and I loved that we added the Kevin Purehearts, the Levins, the Jevons.
Well, that was
I thought that was so cool, and that added so much about fun feeling to it.
I can't imagine us not splitting the party for that book. I feel like if we hadn't split the party, it may not have been as fun, because I thought book 6 was a blast.
Book 6 was fun. I think it would have, all those missions just back to back could have gotten a little tired, a little
but separately they were
a bit of a slog in their own right.
Well, and not just a slog, but if you think about it, the city is being bombarded in real time, right? It's not that, well, right now it's over here and then it's over here. It's not a linear thing like that, right?
That's the magic of TTRPGs, but
but it made sense to split the party, and that was one moment that I felt really strongly and convicted about what my character would do. Like, she would not have followed y'all,
We're gonna talk.
I also got to run people over, which was the best part of the campaign.
We're gonna talk more about each individual book, but first let's talk about your guys' characters a little bit more.
Wait, Patrick, I wanted to follow up what you were talking about, because you wrote the first book, and
yes, I did.
So I wanted to, because we made this comment at the beginning where what we were expecting from you personally, having known you and knowing your taste. Did you know, like, were you given any sort of option, like, oh, do you want to write for this campaign or this campaign, or Was this not an assignment, but were you like, oh, we're doing this? Do you have any ideas for this? Because this is very much in your personal wheelhouse. It's kind of dark, gritty sci-fi. That's very much something you are a fan of.
I think I was given the option because the writing time frame was around convention season of like 2018 or somewhere in there. They were looking for people for the earlier books, so like books 1, 2, and 3, and I was like, if I could write the first book, like I would be so excited to do that, because I mean, I think just getting to kick off the campaign and knowing, I think the general outline of like, yeah, the players lose in book 1. It's basically just retreat after retreat. I was very excited about that, and excited about the idea of a dark war adventure path book. A lot of it is based on, you know, real world things, including my grandfather who fought in the Battle of the Bulge, where very famously the Allied forces were like behind enemy lines or being pushed back all over the place in the dead of winter, you know. So you can see where some of the long slog elements and you know, the fact that you're like separated from all the other soldiers for a lot of that, the part 1 of that book, where that came from.
Do you think you would want to write another book?
Yeah, you know, I think as fun as writing the book 1 in Adventure Path was, it's also kind of easy compared to a lot of the hard stuff that people later on had to do. I was very fortunate in writing book 1. I got to make up like the base swarm components, you know, like the CR 0.5 and CR1 creatures like the dredgers and the Vorfoma and things like that, which was probably the most fun part of writing it, was making up those bugs and get to see them come back in like giant swarms later on was really cool.
I gotta say, dredgers were by far the worst first enemies we've ever come up against. Like,
I don't know about that. Akatas are level 1 too, right?
Yeah, no,
but they're not.
The Akatas can eat. Never mind.
No, I mean, the Akatas are only annoying if you fail some saves. Otherwise, you're just kicking their butts. And even before then, you're not fight. Akatas aren't the first thing you fight in book 1. It's humans.
No, but go re-listen to that first fight with the Akatas and tell me how you felt.
But we failed some fort saves. But dredgers attaching to you and then having all these bonus. I mean, that was just so.
I gotta say, I feel like book 1 was really successful in making you feel like this was a sort of hopeless war. Like we were up against a real enemy that we probably couldn't win against. Like I felt like it was. You know, it was pretty dark for a beginning of a campaign. It was not exactly full of hope, you know? Like we had to.
That's by design.
I know. And I think it was successful in that design. Like, and I feel like repeatedly throughout the campaign, we came up against like pockets of people who had this hope, and it's like you couldn't help but wonder, like, why are you so sure that you're gonna win, because this looks like a really bad situation here, you know?
I was actually the opposite. I mean, part of it is I benefited from being a small creature and didn't have to do the death march. That helped a lot.
It was a dream for you.
But even, I guess because of, maybe it's the people I'm playing with, but I felt like, you know, we were put in a situation where, okay, it's clear that the bugs have won this stage, but I mean, the wars are not won, lost in one battle. So I guess for me, like, I knew that we were put in a situation where we were in a stage of retreat to begin with. And so, like, I understood, for me, I figured, okay, we're trying to get off this planet. And then once we do, I didn't feel like it was hopeless. I thought like this showed us the scope of the danger, but I don't know. I never felt that it was hopeless necessarily.
Well, we also had Chekhov's planet, in that, you know, if the swarm is attacking this planet in the very beginning, this is where we're going to face them later on.
Yeah, you know, I only had the outline for book 6, which we'll talk about later on, when I was writing book 1, because they started writing book 6 like months after probably a month or so after I finished writing book 1, just the way that they kind of space it out, I want to say. So I didn't know like all the specifics. I just knew like, yes, go back to Suskelin and bring the fight back to the swarm in some form based on something that happened in the Mindscape, you know? So I had that in mind and trying to, as well as I could, explain like the lay of the land. You know, you got Burnoa over here and Jordos Mountains over here. I didn't know those places exactly would be coming back, and I think that is something that we just got from the authors and from Paizo's editing. But yeah, I was pretty happy with the final product. I think you guys did extremely well in the challenges of book 1. I think I mentioned to you multiple times, I was like, okay, well, if you can make it past like a certain thing, you'll probably be fine. And obviously that certain thing was me blowing up a bridge like right underneath you. If you can survive that at the end of a forced march, multiple combats, things like that, you know, those first 3 or 4 episodes of the season, I was pretty sure I wasn't going to kill anybody at any other point in the book, and I was right.
That was
very close to getting to boss show, but
that was definitely one of the most stressful things as a player. You know, I've gone through. I've had like big stressful moments happen in like boss fights where someone's just like smacking you down, but that was just episode after episode of just feeling like, oh man, I'm just teetering on this edge of, you know, if Patrick rolls too many 19s, I'm kind of screwed.
It saps you of joy when you get through those things. And this is that's something that this campaign did a lot of, just long stretches of no respite.
Yeah. I mean, that's the soldier's way of life, though. You know, you got to pick up your rucksack and keep marching in some points. And you know, you get to Ilum Chuva later on, and you see these people have not stopped fighting for like over a year. It's fighting is just their breakfast, lunch, and dinner on a dead planet.
Well, they don't have RP, so they don't have to worry about that.
Some might. We'll talk more about the books, including my book, in a little bit. I want to talk about your guys' characters individually, all together. But talking about these 5, first I wanted to ask if, and maybe we can make this a tradition in later seasons wrap-ups, but do you think any one of you as players or your player characters earned like an MVP for the season? Does anybody want to nominate someone for said role?
I would nominate Tress. That's the person who immediately comes to mind.
Yeah, Tress.
He saved your life for sure.
Picking up the mantle of healer is never easy. And then, you know, also, you know, Jabert, you know, kind of also understanding our combat dynamic of only having a 1 upfront melee and taking his what was that called? Wars?
Yeah, the Warmonger. Yeah.
Warmonger, and then taking this Warmonger archetype or connection, and then getting the Solarian connection, and having all that fit together as this like cumulative experience into level 13 was really, really cool. It was a great character development throughout the whole thing. I can't think of how many moments would have been so much worse had Tress not been there, either to do damage in combat, to heal after combat, or to just, you know, be a Sheeran in a Swarm campaign and have a connection to Hylax. Like, that was a pretty big deal too.
Yeah, so obviously there's some the folks at Paizo were trying to get me to nudge you all into all playing bug characters, have like an entire party of bug races, because like at that point they had just put out like their 6th bug, and I was like, I don't know if they want to do that, but I was stoked to get our first Sheeran PC and also a Trox up in here.
Yep.
Tress, do you have, or Jabert, do you have an MVP nom?
I mean, Zinnia came through a whole bunch of times. Zinnia came through for us a lot.
I was good at the skills part, right? Like,
well, I was gonna nominate you, Rebecca, just because one, you're usually at the top of the turn order, in with Miles, and two, you almost always gathered information like immediately just because it was part of your trick attack. So it's like, okay, well, I'm not gonna have any secrets about the monsters this campaign, really.
You kept some secrets, but yeah, I got a few of them out of you.
Your secrets, wizard.
Well, you got to know so many special abilities before I whipped them out.
And it was fun because as you know, Rebecca herself learned more about what swarm components are all about and what they do. The more we learned, because you directed your questions about them a little, more poignantly, I guess. Instead of at first, it was just like, I don't know, are they immune to something?
Acid.
Yeah, and then later on, it was like, oh, they can fly. Do they have any kind of and so that was kind of that was cool.
Rebecca, anyone you want to nominate?
I gotta say Devasho because he took a lot of hits and almost died several times.
Oh yeah, Devasho's probably gone down.
Good of all of us.
Gone down the most this AP, right?
I mean, the most of. I mean, I think the only character who could maybe compete with him for going down would be Alindra, because I know Alindra went down a lot in the early. Early books,
before I got heavy armor.
Little glass candy.
Or if we're gonna go to B team, sort of, Cassius from Dead Man and Remote Crits has gone down so many times.
Hey, our other podcast. If you're the captain of the ship, you're gonna get some. I
just get absolutely shish kebab half the time. But yeah, I mean, Devasho's biggest thing, which is weird as a player, is to be like, your best asset is getting the tar kicked out of you. And Dross had DR and resistances, so I always felt better about him getting hit. Devasho had none of that, and his biggest thing was, with being a shield slayer, and it was like, oh, I'm gonna have a really big EAC and KAC. But as a Solarian, that action economy of having to align the shield with a move action really hurt. If I could change one thing about the shield Solarian, is that you didn't have to do that. Because there are too many Solarian revelations that also use move actions. And
move actions are really valuable in this game. Move actions are...
And so I feel like it's just punishing. Armor Solarians don't have to do that. They don't get as big of a bonus in a way, but they also get cold and fire resistance too. I just didn't like, and I didn't like that, which is why, towards the end, I just kind of gave up aligning the shield. I just took the passive bonus it gave and focused
it's
more
a
on
relatively small bonus,
Well, at 13th level was +4.
Oh, +4. Oh, never mind. I don't know why you didn't do that.
Because it was like, it's either either I get a +4, or I guess technically a +3, because it's a +1 if you don't use a move action. It's a +4 if you do use the move action. So a +3 difference. Or I can do Tidal Surge, which lets me move and be in two places at one time, or use my Periastra training to become fully attuned and explode. I just always felt like I had a better option. And especially once my armor class, once my armor itself wasn't as high, at the end of the campaign, Zinnia and Trest had higher ACs than Devasho.
Yeah, there were. I mean, Drew, you had 32 KAC in your power armor. I was about to say, Miles and Drew, I'm very excited to end on level 13 with these characters, because you guys are getting scary at the end there. Drew, you crit for over 100 damage on the boss, and you're putting up 78 tricks with an operative, which is also very scary. If you roll the trick and the crit, it's like, oh, I guess that guy's dead.
Yeah, but I felt like in the last book I didn't hit the tricks a lot.
Yeah. Well, there's that's the old rub for the operatives, but
my secret is take 10 on all of those tricks. That's what I do.
and have a ton of bonuses to your
right.
stealth.
Never miss.
So you guys all have 3 main Starfinder PCs, player characters under your guys' belt. I think I know the answer to this because everyone just loves season 1 characters so much. But is anybody's favorite character their season 3 character? Do you pick and choose amongst your babies?
That's
favorite.
tough.
Alindra's my girl. I can't sway from.
Yeah.
I mean, not necessarily like character wise, but like to play or to roll.
I would almost say
to-
Bagrat. Go ahead, Miles.
Oh, I was saying to play. I mean, Sprouts was a lot of fun to play. I think that having more experience as a tabletop role playing player since when I first started playing, I might have built Raimi differently. I still had fun playing Raimi. I still have fun playing Raimi, and he's my favorite character. But
You'll have fun playing them in season 4.
yeah, but I gotta say, I mean, Sprouts is close as far as playing as the operative and the detective.
I mean,
yeah.
I think Sprouts Marl is one of my favorite PCs personally. I was very excited to see a Raxolite, but also when you were like, oh yeah, just a private eye plant detective, PI, plant investigator. I was like, all right, that's great, fine. But yeah, Raxolite operative worked really well. This literally tiny creature with a gun like the size of them. But I wanted to mention one of my original ideas for the introductions for this season was to like alternate between the characters each book. And we started with Sprouts, but I was going to go like maybe book 2 is Trest's battle reports, and book 3 is
that was the original plan, and somehow I got stuck with these freaking
Because they were too good.
No, it was not. You just didn't want to do them. Do not even
some
try.
of them. I did do some of them.
You should have just botched them, Miles, if you didn't want to do them.
I'll be honest.
I tried.
I liked writing Sprout stories more than I would have enjoyed reading them.
Oh yeah, I felt bad for Miles having to read, especially when if a bunch of us were. Oh.
Yeah,
all the idioms were so much fun. I loved it.
I like to think that I
were.
coined Trixie Strixie, but I'm not sure that I did. I know I wrote it at one point.
I love the Noir intros, and yeah, thank you, Miles, for reading 80 plus of them. So you skipped a couple episodes, but
I get a reprieve from last time on for a little bit. Okay?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Like everything, we're going to switch things up in season 4, but it's not going to be like any one character doing every intro.
And now it's episode 200. Here's Raimi's ramblings.
Raimi has a podcast that details everything he's doing that day.
Straight from the Fusion Queen.
Right.
So I guess Edros is my favorite mechanical character to play. So soldiers will always be my favorite class, and they will always be my favorite thing to play. However, boy, do I love Devasho's backstory and character as a character more than Edros. Edros is very straightforward. Intivate, heart of gold, dummy. I love that, and I will always love that. But
sounds like someone I know in my personal life.
It's just, it's just not very. I on purpose just didn't make him super dynamic or anything. And
I'm calling you dumb and strong and with a heart of gold. That's
most of his and most of his character development was stuff that happened in the campaign. It wasn't from the backstory, but I put a lot of heart and effort into Devasho's backstory. I loved having a big family. I loved having this ambassador husband that, was able to come in every once in a while and, remind Devasho of what he was fighting for and what was at stake here during all these battles. I loved coming up with all my kids' names and thinking about like what was going on with them. And so I think Devasho was my favorite character that I've written, but Edros is still my favorite person to play.
I think we all just have such a deep connection to our season 1 charters.
It's really easy to say that. Like Echo 7 is very fun to play. Like Tyler said, soldiers are very, very fun. Like doing stupid damage towards
giant heavy weapon power armored ones, I imagine, are pretty fun too.
The very first space combat we did this season I natural 20'd on firing a space gun. It's like you can't beat that. But you go again. It's like your first Doctor on Doctor Who. You never forget that one, and you're always kind of attached to that one. And I think that's true of Starfinder characters and TTRPG characters in general.
Well, you guys made some very iconic characters with season 1, but with the season 3 folks, you all did. I mean, I think the best job so far, just because you're getting better at it every season. Writing the backstories, figuring out who they are before you start playing. But my ideas for the meta plots that your characters kind of got to go through, and some of them were long, some of them were like a book, was war changes people sometimes for the better, and sometimes sometimes for the worse, but not really with these characters. So Devasha, you talked about how a lot of your backstory took back seats to what was happening with this demon haunting your soul. We got some extra added into the campaign from Jason Keeley making a new what are they called, not a haunt but a
shadow
corruption.
A new corruption, specifically for your character. I was gonna say, who else? We had Tress go from just like a killer soldier to like spiritual warrior at the end, and had I would say maybe a change of heart from the decision you would make at the beginning of the campaign versus the end with sparing the soul of the god host. And same way with Sprouts and Zinnia and Echo. Sprout started as kind of like a loner character, and then at the end I think you're more than anything best buddies with everyone in the squad, and Zinnia turned from like all science to like maybe a little mystical towards the end, cynic to stoic.
We also have to talk about Zinnia right now, because how many times did Rebecca say that Zinnia wasn't Burke?
You keep mentioning Burke.
Yeah, I was about to say, how often more did you talk about how she was Burke? I think you called her Burke more than she did anything that was
the
Burke.
Thing is, y'all don't know the backstory. How many times she swore up and down, promised, just I'm not Burke.
Like in her private life?
Yes, because I called you Burke at home a lot.
All right, Burke.
It was like,
wait,
Burke.
You've called her Burke at home more than you've just called her Burke on this show? Is that spouse abuse? Because I feel like you've called her Burke a lot on the show.
I've had to defend Zinnia quite a bit.
Wow. Wait, I feel like, do we need to define Burke for people? Watch Aliens. It's rated R.
Character in Aliens. Yeah.
Understand that it's an R-rated movie, so that's.
By the way, I watched that movie shortly before playing this campaign, so it may have colored Zinnia a little bit.
Well, the real Burke is Xantos Loachwort. Speaking of your guys' your characters, maybe least favorite moments, do you have favorite moments from each other's characters that you wanted to highlight from the season, like strengths or weaknesses that they brought, or other fun things that happened for someone besides your character?
I mean, we're all gonna say Devasha's double crit.
Oh, we don't have to talk about that, Drew.
Yeah,
that's still a pretty sore wound here, Drew. We don't
I've got one where I don't know if it's a favorite moment. I remember being blown away. I think I even talked to Javert about this maybe like after everybody else got off, when we were in the Mindscape and Patrick posits to Echo, it's like, do you want to keep your movie references or the memories of your comrades? And Drew's like, movie references. I was like, wow! Like,
well,
it wasn't that simple.
I was blown away.
Honestly, Tyler, I think that just shows how little you know Drew.
Well, no, the way I was couching it was like
I was typing to Tyler as you were saying it. I was like, this fool's gonna pick his movie.
I defended Drew to the death. I was like, there's no way.
He won't do that. He won't do that.
Threw away his memories of his most beloved comrades so he could be
get
like,
out of here,
heavy fire. And I was just, I remember.
Let Drew defend himself, you monsters.
That was not the intention of that moment. The intention of that moment is the memories of the crew that I currently have, my current friends, and all of those experiences.
Well, that's a lovely thought. I wish it came across in how you said it, because it sounded like you were like, "Oh no, I want to pretend to be the governor of California."
you guys smell that? Because it smells like bull flame.
I mean, so I didn't bring this up just to tease Drew. I brought it up.
I misunderstood what we were doing here. Sorry.
I mean, I was some of that. But I also brought it up because, I mean, I thought that was a really hard decision. I have made decisions for my characters before, and I've understood that, and it surprised me, but in a good way. I thought the most predictable decision he would make was the other way, and Drew did something I wasn't prepared for, and as he was about to explain, for a reason that he did have, and I just thought that was very interesting, and it was definitely so I think it made the character more dynamic. So I liked it a lot.
The thing about it is, if Drew had picked the other way, I would have made you Marvin the robot the rest of the book. Just be completely dead as a character, and then eventually get your personality back once you defeat the mindscape. So I think this way was probably more fun, and you ended up still kind of freeing the Amarantan souls from their prison anyway, so worked out well. For me, Zinnia, Rebecca, you desecrating a temple very early on in the game. Game was super surprising to me.
Tell us all about that, Burke.
Did not see that one coming.
I was really proud of that moment, by the way. I threw Patrick off. He had no idea I was going to do that.
You threw everybody off. None of us knew what you were thinking.
Yeah, no, didn't think you would walk into the Sistine Chapel and just start stabbing the walls.
Yeah.
But can we also talk about how when she did that, it was a huge deal. But as we get through the campaign and get back to that particular arch being a huge part of the story, it's Zinnia's tattoo all over again.
Yeah. Alindra's tattoo, yeah. So
Alindra's tattoo, excuse me.
You've presaged that because, once again, I didn't know, and there was nothing in the book that I wrote, book one, about that being especially important. I think I mentioned that was what was radiating light out and kind of subduing the swarm outside. But that's, just the entire temple itself in my mind. But the fact that, at the end of the campaign, the Hylaxian blessings, I was definitely only going to give those bonuses to you if you indeed wanted to make some kind of restoration or restitution to the church you defiled.
And I did.
Yeah, bring it back.
You did not tip me off to that. I was like, you know what? She's going to put the crystal back and then say a prayer.
Beyond that, I did not tell you at all. But that is what is in the AP, is if you genuflect or, reach out to Hylax, you can get a boon at that point. And when I read that in the game prep, I was like, oh my gosh, that's going to be, she's going to have a huge negative if she hasn't fixed that thing.
I even asked before that episode, the prior session, I was like, can I get the crystal back so that I can bring it back to the temple? I thought about that ahead of time, right?
Oh yeah. And we had Xantos Lochort bring it. It's like, it doesn't do anything. It's like,
speaking of, I want to destroy all faith in this crystal and get all the people that believe in this crystal against you as a people.
Man, I mean, Xantos Lochort could have been a footnote in our entire story, but Thanks to Miles and Sprouts. Oh my gosh, did this NPC come to life in a way that I was never expecting.
This is where I have a question. Was Xantos Lorchwart specifically written in all of these other instances, or was he only in the mutiny portion of that book?
So I will say that I created the character in book 1 as just kind of like an NPC that could come back, and or no, we knew he was going to be in book 2, but I got to create him basically. So name him and general description and things like that. But the last refuge, which was written by Marilyn Butler, she was the one that did all the mutiny stuff in that book, obviously. So like the majority of like what you think of as being Xantos's quote unquote personality, I think came through in book 2. But it's one of those things like very easily you could kill him in book 2. I'm sure many parties did, or try to get him like Sprouts did at the end, like arrested for whatever crimes. So he does show up in book 6 in the place where you guys found him, but there's like a side panel. It's like, well, if you killed him already, like just make up another scientist character for this part, which I thought was great.
I mean, I just don't think I would have cared about the character at all if it wasn't for Miles's / Sprouts's pure hatred for the man. Like, yeah, that is the most I think I've ever seen Miles just want to, throw someone in the trash compactor of life. And I remember I still laugh about it. It was so funny when he came back in book 6.
It's so funny to think of this tiny plant like standing up this massive human comparatively.
One thing that I love, because historically, because Drew and I just like to rib each other and tease each other in the beginning of this campaign, because we did that with in the first couple of books with Mac and Raimi, and we did that with Kaz and Wynn. But in this book,
are you guys destined to best bud in every season?
Yeah. Well, so the thing that I loved is that how we functioned as a complete unit, and it's all entirely on Drew, because he could have easily been like, "Yeah, I don't want to do that." And
he made a seat for you on his shoulder.
But having this whole kind of Rocket and Groot kind of reverse thing, where the little Groot is a little tiny guy, but I give Drew his full credit for that, for playing along with the idea, and then we just kept it going, and it was so much fun.
That's very cool.
And we actually played very, very well together, and I was really, really happy about that.
It's impossible for me to think of Sprouts and Echo as separate.
Yeah,
I forget all the time that you guys, your backstories are not written together, because it seems like they should have been, because once they came together, it just made so much sense, and it was so fun to
I remember being frustrated that I couldn't move Echo and Sprouts' icons in Roll20 together
all the time.
It was very
so annoying.
So that's one thing I think at the beginning of the season I discouraged a little bit against, is you guys writing one another into each other's backstories, just because kind of the whole idea was you just get thrown together into a squad in an impossible situation. So I wanted there to be a little more tension at the beginning than like, oh, well, I know I can trust them. They're best buds, maybe this person's going to totally burk out on me, or, maybe they're a little unhinged. You never know. Right after leveling these characters all the way up to level 13 and getting the chance to play, only like 3 fights or so with a level 13 character, would anybody do anything different in your character building, your classes, your character creation, that kind of thing?
I go back and forth on.
Yeah, Rebecca, you obviously got a big question mark for you on this.
I have a big question mark, because I took a level in Biohacker, and I, on the one hand, really regret that, because one level is not going to give you a whole lot.
I think it did, though.
But on the other hand, even though I wasn't using my injection gun a whole lot, it changed my modifier for two of my skills for like perception and something else, and it also changed how I identify creatures. And so because of that, it made it a lot easier to identify things, and my perception was much better. And
then when you identify things, you can more easily trick them with the
Alien Archive.
The Alien Archive ability, yeah. So while you guys were both operatives, and technically you were like a little weaker than the Rexlite operative, you tricked, I feel like, much more consistently, and obviously because you were also taking 10 sometimes.
I was taking 10, and I had a lot of stealth, as you mentioned earlier, plus the Alien Archive on top of that would give me a +2 if I identified it successfully. And in Starfinder, identify is a free action, unlike some other games. So because of that,
it's nice. And the only reason I agreed to allowing both you, Rebecca, and Miles to both play operatives in the same season is the same reason why I was like totally gung-ho with Trest having like the Solarian flavor of Mystic and Devasho being a Shield Solarian, is because while you do something similar, your characters are very different, and everyone can have like a pistol, but your characters can be completely different and play differently in Starfinder, especially based on all the other things that you decide about. So
Sprouts and Zinnia were definitely very different operatives from each other.
Yeah, exactly. And you had different things you can do on your turns, and
it's so funny because I expected them to kind of be BFFs on this route. And it kind of went the opposite.
No, you guys were competing for pistols every once in a while. So.
Not really. But like Sprouts even like went on that one little walkabout at the college with her to back her up. And then it's just funny how things narratively turn out sometimes.
Well, I couldn't carry you as well as Echo could. So
any other
you couldn't.
Any other changes that you'd want to make with your characters?
As far as the actual gameplay, I don't think so. There might have been some narrative changes I made, or some things that I would do to stretch out. I think I mentioned in my intro, I would have liked to have created maybe a little Moriarty or something for Sprouts to pop up, because I feel like a lot of his stuff was resolved by halfway through book 2.
Yeah, in retrospect, you should have. Gravelark should have been your enemy.
So I thought that like I had enough stuff that like, okay, this could be sprinkled in, and then we used most of it in the first books, which is probably the best place to put it. So it makes sense.
I was worried, I didn't have all of books. The later books, I had like the general outline, and I was worried like it would. And it was kind of difficult to put stuff in book 5 where you're just in another plane of existence, for example. And I didn't know.
I would have liked some more stuff with Sprouts and Render. I thought that could have been yielding some interesting stuff, but
she almost came back in book 6. But it's just so far removed from like when we.
And that's the problem with making a character like Sprouts, where it's like there's this whole underworld segment to deal with, and it's like it's not a factor. We're in the middle of a war.
We got.
I'm sorry. Who is Render?
Anasia Render.
Render. You mean the character based off Patrick's wife?
Well, off her gamer tag perhaps, but she is the daughter of a mafioso kind of character on Susclan, and I was like,
that aspect made it a little awkward for her to be Sprouts' femme fatale.
Well, she doesn't like necessarily look like the wife, but I was thinking of having her and like maybe join up with the SCF in book 6, or like try to do like a black market thing. But in book 6 was kind of crowded as it were, because it was like 17 episodes. Book 6 was sprawling for us. There's just so many
and we didn't do a whole lot of homebrewing this
yeah, we split the party.
Split the party.
We split the party. There was that.
Book 1 was basically a homebrew campaign,
right?
Me.
So book 1, that, and I think you mentioned that the prison stuff was completely homebrewed, right?
Official homebrew. Yes, so that was like, the little meta plot tie-in to our greater Cosmic Crit story with the Founding 19, and we got to see the season 1 characters for the most part show up for a brief scene. But going back and talking about the adventure path itself, the books in Fate of the Fifth, I was very happy to write that, and I think I've mentioned it online before. There's not a lot from my initial draft that was cut. There's not a lot that was added in, except you guys might be interested to know, I did not give you a vehicle in my draft for book 1. Yeah, if you guys recall, you got a cart, a vehicle to take you up the Jurdos Mountains. I was going to have you walk that too. Well, because one of the scenes that didn't make it in, because you just drove kind of up the mountain, was at the peak or towards the peak. I was going to have a climbing section, where you can either go up like a sharp climb or do some things with ropes and things, but it's a little mechanically heavy, so I understand why that was.
Unless you can fly.
Yeah, unless you can fly, and then you're like, see you guys on the top.
Flying that is one thing I will miss about this campaign, is having a flying character who can
pretty
just
sure
fly.
Everyone has a jetpack in season 4, right?
Well,
I mean, yeah, at level 13, but I mean, like from level 1, I could just fly past obstacles. It was very nice.
There was a lot of intrigue in book 2 and entirely non-swarm interactions, and it's probably the most different of all the AP volumes because of that. I'm interested to hear what your feedback is on book 2. I enjoyed it because it was like you had the mutiny on the starship, and then you had all the weird patrols and things that were being sabotaged, including the bomb at the water plant, and then you did have a final cave dragon crawl, which is very different from what you probably expected to be doing as soldiers. But I love book 2 personally.
I liked a lot of book 2. It's just that some of the stuff that was introduced never comes back in a way that makes it seem.
Like I said, you immediately leave the planet after that, and then you go to a comet and then another plane of existence. Yeah. So it's like each book has to live and die on its own a little.
Where are they gonna go?
Yeah. Well, so much of the first half of Dead Suns is within the same star system, so you can like really play around with that. But I felt the same way about the end of Dead Suns. It's like, well, then afterwards you're just out in the cosmos. It's hard to bring back those kind of plots. When I
will say about the caverns that the bioluminescent creatures in the wall or whatever, like it was all very evocative for me. Like I could really visualize that area.
Very cool. Yeah.
And I mean, there's some cool monsters there. I really enjoyed having a reprieve from all bugs, all acidic, immune, telekinetically linked bugs.
I mean,
so
that's also really true.
I was really hoping that book 2 was going to focus more on like refugee crisis in terms of war. So I really liked it in the beginning. I really liked that there was this group of people that just wanted to give in. That just wanted to give into the swarm.
Yeah, dark
this
stuff.
Is life. We should just accept this, and hope that when they assimilate us, that we just get a good gig out of it, right? I thought that was very, very poignant. I wish there was more of like, hey, we have all these refugees. We need to figure out. We need to get supplies. We need to get housing. We need to get. Here are all these things that are happening. I don't know. I just kind of wish there was more stuff revolving around managing and trying to keep in control this huge huddled mass of people that all of a sudden were homeless and desperate and lacking in resources. And I thought there would be more of that kind of I know in Pathfinder first edition there's kind of mechanics that revolve around, keeping morale high and like, oh, here are some resource points and you can do missions to get resource points and then distribute those resource points to try and keep people good.
I think, so much of the book was taken up by the part 1 on the ship and then part 3 in the cave. Unfortunately, you couldn't do all that there. I would have loved all the stuff you talked about, but what we got on Ultranius, I personally, is some of my favorite parts of the season, where you guys were like fighting fires, and that was kind of a split party because like some people were up on the
That was cool.
5th floor, some people were down below fighting robots.
Zinnia was just flying around, like pointing at stuff. Like,
I mean, there was another split
you
party.
guys know this is on fire, right?
Some of you went in the front door of the cult lodge, and some went through like the back door. You got split the party all over the place.
It was the most we probably ever split the party. Yeah,
but that wasn't as much splitting the party as what we did in book 6. Like book 6, we actually split the party.
You were miles
what we did in book 6 made Jabert look at me and go, "You're insane. this is death." And
Jabert, it was so good. Your reactions after they decided to split up. I loved it, man.
Oh, poor Jabert.
I think we were trying to cover our bases, though, right? Like it.
Yeah, no, we had legit reasons. Plus, it sounded fun.
Yeah, but we're jumping ahead to book 6. But what we did is only something you can do when you have a GM like Patrick who's willing to play in that world. Like Jabert, by all accounts, is totally right. If you were to split the party and play the book as written, I mean, you're just dead. I mean, I can't imagine a scenario where you're just totally fine.
I mean, spoiler warning, if you hadn't split the party, the Pluprex demon would have attacked you like at the reactor, obviously. And there's also a boss kind of character in the house where the scientists were kept that was cut out, and I put Gravelark kind of in his place, and I was like, all right, they're not going to fight him. He's just going to fly away. So, I mean, you kind of pushed back, or I pushed back some boss fights in those sections. But I don't think narratively it changed too much. You basically got the same amount of fights in those episodes. Just half the time you were, you had like 20 hit points and your name rhymed with Evan. We'll talk about, I mean, we've obviously spent a lot of time on books 2 and 6 here, but books 3, 4, and 5, I know you guys have some favorite moments. But I am interested to find out if you guys had a favorite single volume of the AP just as a player, not, it does not have to be from the point of view of, I wrote one of them because I mean, book 1 isn't my favorite, so don't let it be yours.
Yeah, three's mine.
3, you really enjoyed Huskworld?
Yeah, I really loved Huskworld.
Yeah.
Whoever came up with going inside a swarm component, that was that Imago.
Oh yeah, no, I think
that was. Hold on, wasn't that 2? Hold on.
No,
that was 3.
That was 3 when we went to the conquered planet, and
it was Liz Liddell, who I believe now works for Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, right, that's where the university was.
They do, I think. Maybe they them. But they.
Oh, you're right.
I was in a Discord with some of the other authors when the idea of this came up, and I was like, "That is absolutely disgusting. Do it." I was like, I'm gonna have difficulty GMing that part and describing the inner workings.
What did we call it? Did we call them like flesh tubes or?
Oh goodness gracious!
We called them something so gross because it was
really
so
gross.
I don't know. It looked like a tick full of planet.
It did.
Yeah,
it did.
I mean,
it was
that's
great.
Basically what it was.
Jabert, do you remember how like you stepped in a space and it just like sucked you down to a different level and you were like, well, I guess I'm just down here now. And you weren't even.
I mean, it was kind of great because like, if you just like wait another round, it just sort of squirts you back up to like, the other side of the chamber.
So nasty.
Surprise,
so
mother plonker.
So gross.
I'm here.
So I mean, I just loved it. I loved that like we had just lost to the swarm. Now we're going to a planet who had already lost to the swarm, but there were these, not really revolutionaries, but dissidents. I don't know, freedom fighters.
Yeah, freedom
survivors.
fighters.
Freedom fighters, and it was kind of a reflection of where Suskelin was, and it gave a little bit of hope that the fight could continue. And then there was just so many cool combat scenes. I mean, the fire elemental just trying to punch through a door and crit's not working, and I mean, I can think of just that one room that just had all of the different like dead swarm components that they were breaking down to into more like cubes so that they could make more out of them. What the pronk? Like, I mean, there were so many cool pieces in that book. It just outshines
I do think,
and things to figure out too, like what were those black cubes, you know, like, and you had to kind of hypothesize and figure it out, and then the basements,
post-apocalyptic kind of feel to it, and I remember I was so jealous when that scene, the Imago escape scene where it starts to like collapse in on itself was described to me, because I was like, this is like probably going to be one of the most cinematic things that happens in the entire adventure path. You know?
Absolutely. And I remember Devasho went down. Tress had to heal me.
Oh, yes.
And then I had to go through acid pools because I was large. And so my health was still ticking down. And Jabert's like, I can't go any faster because this big dumb idiot could die again and I have to heal him. Meanwhile, like the time was just clicking down. It was so cool.
I'm telling you, man, maybe large characters aren't the way to go.
Yeah, maybe they're not the way to go. But like also some of the art was really, really good. Like the Imago art was great. That map was great. The swarm component that we had to fight in the professor's office, I can't remember what that was called, but that was terrifying. Mind Reaper, I think was the name or something like that.
Oh yeah, that was foreshadowed in book 1, where the troops on Tuscan are like, they can like stab you in the brain and steal your thoughts. And it's like, yes, that is exactly what
that was crazy. And like it was so cool to know that the swarm wanted this one professor's brain, so they sent this one component that could do this one special thing to try and get this singular piece of information. That felt very, very cool. That's one of my, I mean, not only is it my favorite book of this campaign, it's one of my favorite books in any campaign, period.
Anybody else a favorite moment or favorite book moment? I mean, for me, every book got like more interesting, more exciting than the last one. I enjoyed the bit of a respite, and it was kind of a short book for us. I think it was like 10 episodes. The Forever Reliquary, by our good friend Kate here on the podcast. It was another one of those change of pace kind of books, and Kate Baker did a great job with what I thought was the closest thing to like Starfinder Society missions, or like Star Trek away missions, where you guys got to, prove yourself as Hylaxian agents and make first contact and broker peace between the Noir and the Goran kind of settlements. I thought those were very fun. Enjoyed those a great deal.
I had a lot of fun with book 6. I really liked splitting the party. I loved getting to just run dudes over with a vehicle. That was a lot of fun for me. That was honestly one of my favorite little moments. But I thought book 6 was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I do have to give a nod to book 5 for being the only book that correctly doled out the amount of credits and or mind bucks for characters of that level. So
mind bullet bucks.
Props book 5. You're the only book in all of Starfinder to correctly hand out as much money as necessary for these characters to buy things.
Book 5, Hive of Minds, of course, by another friend of the show, Thirsty.
Thirsty's insane. Also, my favorite enemies in the entire campaign in I'm just going to keep calling them Pain and Panic. They're not Pain and Panic. It's Doubt and Hesitation. Yes. Doubt and Hesitation, only because they just remind me of Pain and Panic for some reason from Hercules.
I love them so much I had to bring them back in book 6.
I know. I'm so happy you did.
We got another reprieve.
By far the best narrative enemies we've ever fought, I think. It's just, I loved every second of that fight.
Book 5 was really weird, really hard for me and I think with a different character, my experience with it would have been very different, but my very science focused character I had a really hard time finding motivation for her in this weird dream world. It's like, this doesn't make scientific sense. She couldn't really grapple with where she was, and that made it hard to role play,
I mean, if it makes you feel any better, my mystic was having trouble understanding it as well. So
You're intuiting parts of it, and you guys, we're taking these big leaps in, giving up parts of yourself and like sacrificing things.
But we didn't like it.
Yeah, but I mean, you still like you jumped into a lot of those, and you weren't really hamstrung that much for the final boss there. So, but talking about final bosses, I really want to talk about what happened 2 weeks ago with the last leg of book 6 in this keyed up God host. Like most of the boss fights, I turn it up to 11 because you guys can handle 11 usually, but I did not think in a million years that you were going to take out its body, which had 350 HP, regenerated 50 HP per round, and the combats, this combat went on for like 6 turns or so. You guys did more than 500 damage, I think, to the boss's body alone. You also took out a head a couple times, but yeah, that's insane to me.
That's the most steamrolling of a creature. Let alone a boss. Any creature I think that we've ever done, we just rolled it. And what are you gonna do? That wasn't because we did anything different than we have for like 6 books.
Trest didn't even. I think Trest attacked exactly one time. Like Trest just set that fight out. And it's like the rest of the team just went through
you made the hurricane. You made the big like debris field that.
Oh, that doesn't count.
That does not count. I thought that was cool.
Count. It didn't do anything at all. It was fun.
But the wonder spell.
Fun for
the
me,
wonder spell,
that's it.
man. Come on.
The wonder spell.
The wonder spell also didn't do it. Also didn't factor into that fight.
All around. It moved everybody around the battlefield.
Well, after that was you guys are forgetting that was after the thing already dropped. Like it was like I'm telling you. I was keeping like scrupulous notes. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm not going to do anything in this fight if I don't attack it at least one time right now. Attack. All right, thank goodness I put some damage on the board.
But seriously, every single one of us crit at least one time, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
that's got to be some kind of record for us.
I was looking at this, and the last 2 rolls you had, Jabert, were a Cernok bites, and you rolled a 19 and a 20. You monster. We're talking about Tyler's 220s, and you're over here with a summoned creature just going like, ah!
That Cernok was awesome.
Oh my goodness! What did that do? 1d10 plus 5. Oh man.
Yeah, but it was fun.
MVP of the summoned creatures. But yeah, you guys, I feel like definitely fates aligned in that boss fight, because I think the way a lot of parties probably did it is taking out those heads, just one at a time or so, like a Hydra would, and they technically have less HP, but are can grow back, so it's almost as difficult as taking out the body. But I think that fight for me, top 5 favorite Starfinder battles of all time. Certainly, it's up there with the Corpse Fleet leader.
It eclipses Saravox fight so much to me, because
the boss fights against the Aeon Throne were a lot of fun. But yeah, Saravox is fun because that was like a 2-parter that we were having a good time with. This one, I was
hold on. Who is Sarah? I'm bad with names. Who is Saravox? Is that End of Dead Sons?
Wait. Who was having fun with it?
I wasn't.
We were having a great.
Patrick and Tyler were having a grand old time with it.
The Corpse Fleet, like Admiral Commander person.
I was thinking maybe this fight with God Host might have to go 2 episodes as well, but then you guys just kept critting. I was like, no, we're gonna finish this tonight.
I was 100% sure that it would at least be 2 nights, and I was 95% sure that one of us was going to die, and then we just crit it to death.
The point I was like, okay, maybe I can slow this down a little is when I cast the same spell. The greater synaptic. What's it called?
Greater synaptic pulse. Yeah.
Pulse, yeah. The greater one, and you all saved against it. Whereas the previous time you all failed. I was like, all right, there's no beating them. This I'm not taking anyone out.
Well, we were in the zone. We were definitely in the zone.
Before we wrap up, a couple more fan submitted questions from Cyber Robert on the Discord. Did Patrick force y'all to make backups due to how insanely difficult this AP can be? The answer is no.
Yeah, no, we just did it all of our own accord.
Some people had ideas.
I think most of us did make backups.
In
I procrastinate enough making my main character. I would never make a backup unless I was absolutely forced to.
Tyler, you had the plan of like one of your kids trying to like avenge you.
Yes. So my eldest Gavantes, which is like a 19-year-old Demai, I made a solar flare Solarian. So kind of a follow in father's footsteps type situation. Who would, I figured like, well, maybe if he hears about Devasho's passing, then he would step up. So
from Toric 00, Tyler, was the corruption mechanic satisfying looking back, given the mechanical handicap it imposed on you, the way it resolved?
I don't think I've talked about this, but I was very close to going very, very dark with Devasho. I thought about having Devasho given to the gift entirely in his pursuit to get back to his family, to the point where it destroys his relationship with his family.
I mean, you're getting pretty dark there at certain points where they're like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah, it was really hard, and I kind of want to do that because, and the reason why, I loved the mechanics of the corruption gifts. I loved the corruption gifts. I liked having those I liked what they did. I liked all the drawbacks and the negatives. And
I definitely want to play around
Tress to be getting upset because my healing was halved. All that was all that.
How bad some of them were. Oh man!
Oh, they were so bad. I mean, bad. Literally, Jabert would be like, "All right, I've healed you for 50 points of damage." I'm like, "Nope, 25." It's like, great. But despite all that, I mechanically loved them. I really wanted to keep them throughout all of the AP. But when Book 4 came around and Devasho had this opportunity to go through this kind of cleansing and rid himself of the corruption, and then further follow that into Book 5. I really wanted his story to be more positive. I couldn't bring myself to turn this into a Darth Vader, which is really which was what I was beginning to kind of think of it as a model after, is where like, well, I could just turn to the dark side, but
you did.
So yeah.
I was ready to go there with you, but I think the story of you like shunning them and like just taking the negatives, like bearing that cross until you could figure out a way to get rid of it was pretty cool. Well,
and it just worked out that way because Devasho kept going down. Like I think it would have been different if Devasho kept just holding his ground, never falling, and just trouncing all these swarm components. I think that would have given him a different feeling. But the fact that you just kept knocking me unconscious over and over and over again, and then this gift is like, oh, we need to be more powerful. It's like, yeah, you can't even help me right now. I'm on the verge of death all the time. So how much different can it be without you? So I think that helped mold the narrative as well.
From our good friend James in the UK, for you, Jabert. Did you enjoy playing a support character? I think you answered this in the Discord already, but was there anything you'd want to change in your build to make it more interesting or effective?
I mean, I was pretty happy with the way I built Trest. I enjoyed sort of the support elements of Trest, but I think that one of the things that I felt as I was thinking about what I wanted the character to be was that there are some challenges towards using the Mystic for support, because you'll have some sort of class abilities that are a little support-ish. Those are pretty limited, and if you're relying on spells, you're going to need to be a higher level character if you want to rely on those for any amount of time during your play session, or during a dungeon or whatever. So I found that the solar weapon was actually a huge help in giving me something else to do that was also helpful to the team.
Yeah.
when I wasn't, casting pre-combat spells, and so I was pretty happy with the way it turned out. As far as some things that I wish I'd done differently, I wish I'd had remove radiation, but that's more a concern about the way that spell selection works and sort of the limitations of access to spells works in this game. But
yeah, that wasn't super useful towards the end. I mean, it could have been, but the
right. If I'd had it when I needed it, it would have been very helpful. But
there's a radiation bit in book 2 that I was very concerned about because I was like, I don't want someone to on this trip through space, just like have their character wither away, because it's a little dangerous if you can't make those fort saves. Those are our questions for you guys from the fans. Do you have any last questions for one another, for me, before we head out?
I mean, I gotta go. Jabert is. I mean, I kind of want to go. This is going back to a previous question, but do you bumfuzzle over everybody else?
Oh, bumfuzzle. A plus. Bumfuzzle.
We didn't talk about bumfuzzle, and I was like, oh, this is fine. We have to talk about bumfuzzle. Like, I think if I had to make my A team amongst all the seasons and all the characters, right, it would probably be Alindra and Echo and Sprouts and Bumfuzzle and Adross.
Oh god, I don't want to hear. I don't want to fight that team. No thank you.
We still have 2 operatives.
Two operatives this season felt so good. I was so happy with it.
No.
Just all operatives, just 5 operatives.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But yeah, no.
Skill check.
Yeah, I have a deep, soft place in my heart for Andis, but oh boy, there's just a little warm, snuggly pocket that's just goblin sized right there in my heart. And
100%. That fanny pack thing that you had going on, the utility belt.
Fanny pack.
Man, I remember every time you wanted to do a trick and like Bumfuzzle pulls out one of those fans with like the
little water
spout on it.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like and gets them in your eyes. And it's like, what?
This is not a season 2 retrospective.
It is now. Hey, welcome to the Bumfuzzle podcast.
I feel like Dress and Bumfuzzle are similar because you had so many different spells and or tricks and or you could just run up and fight in melee combat. Not something that Andis could necessarily do.
Not with that baton. Not with that baton.
What baton?
I was level 13. I'm like, you pulled it out. 1d4. Here we go, buddy. Whack, whack, whack.
Whack, whack, whack.
Bonk, bonk.
Remember when Patrick was like, you want to leave your gun here when we were on that one planet? You just dismantled your like Aphelion laser rifle.
I just purchased it at full price and I was so upset. I was like, I can't believe I have to do this. And I just put it in the incinerator and I was just like, oh man.
That was one of those moments where I was like, oh, okay, well, he'll just like put his baton in there or something, right?
Nobody made you do that.
Here's my $10,000 gun, and it's like, what? That was so good, but it led to great. It led having that Sonic rifle, which then led to like led to a whole like the conserve infusion, and then the boost move action using your Cortex.
Oh my God, this isn't a season 1 retrospective, Tyler.
Sorry. We just talk about, as we talk about characters, all this stuff comes to mind, and I just like talking about it.
I'm trying to wrap this up, and you just keep going back seasons. Do you want to talk about the season 0 where we homebrewed a campaign? You want to talk about that some too?
No, I don't want to talk about. Wait, was that character's name Win too? Miles?
There was a win in that.
Yes.
All right, that's the titles of the season were all video games, or not the titles, the introductions that I gave from Super Mario Brothers in episode 1 to the Final Fantasy remake 199. Season 1 I did like movies and TV, sci-fi movies and TV, and season 2 was music. Do you guys have a guess as to what season 4 is going to be?
Novels,
TV shows.
I'm not that well read, and I don't
JSTOR database articles.
I don't expect that of our audience to be like, this is another book you've probably not read.
Old Man in the Sea.
That's right. You are the fish that's half eaten on the side of a boat. You're a Vasho. Bring it up.
You're a smelly shark eating a fish.
You're a whole school of flying fish hopping out of the water.
I mean, I hope you do either horror movies or just B movies.
I gotta save horror if we ever do Signal of Screams.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
We may never, but I want to save them. Miles, I guess.
I was gonna say kaiju movies.
Oh boy, yeah, it's larger than life, and there's enough of them.
What about board games?
You're a red meeple walking through the game. Well, we'll see. Maybe I've not finalized that, and this is just me farming ideas.
Board games. Tyler said board games, and Patrick was like, "Oh, this is a bad idea. I should make something else."
You're a battleship that now owns 3 properties.
You're a character in Starfinder, Rebecca. Do TTRPGs.
Oh, man.
That's it. That's the end of this season. That's going to do it for season 3. This is us nailing up the coffin. I've got a ton of people to thank, including the 5 of you guys, first and foremost, because 199 episodes. You know, we knew eventually we were going to mess up our numbering system, Rebecca, because we have like a 3-digit numbering system for our episodes. We are now 1/5 of the way to messing that up almost. when we get to 1,000
episode 1,000.
Oh man,
I didn't think we were going to get to 200, so I was
I think
joking
if
about
we ever
it.
make it to episode 1,000, my wife's just going to shoot me.
Well, yeah,
We just need to invent a number that's bigger than 9, but like less than 10.
When this episode comes out, we're over 4 years old. We've passed our 4-year anniversary, which is crazy to think about. And actually, what day is it? From when
16.
we're recording this, it's like this coming week. It's this coming Monday.
Yeah, the 21st, right? August 21st, 2017 was like our first episode.
So thank you for playing with me for a full year, because I think this is probably the 4-year anniversary of us playing the first episode 0 of Cosmic Crit.
Unbelievable.
All right.
Thanks for playing with me for 4 years. Our Patreon supporters have been with us the last couple of years. Thanks for making this show happen, paying for us to continue to make this and make more podcasts like Dead Men Roll No Crits, which if you're not listening to, is released now for free. The first 20 episodes maybe by the time this comes out or so, and a ton more on the Patreon. It's like 8 months ahead on the Patreon. You can listen to about 60 episodes there at this point. Thank you for that and making things like us partnering with Paizo possible. Thank you, Paizo, for thank you, Paizo, especially folks like Jason Keeley, for hiring me to write a book in Starfinder.
Yeah,
that's insane. I think someone asked if I would do another one, and it's like if I had time, I would write all the books. So, but I want them to keep reaching out to new and awesome authors out there and getting new and crazy stories every single time. So special thanks to Seth for doing the character art for this season and also the last couple of seasons, and our other artistic partners out there that we've hired for some art as well. And yeah, just general thanks to all the Crittermanders, all the listeners.
So before we completely wrap up, I think we need to share what is next on the docket for Cosmic Crit.
Oh boy, if everyone has gotten through an hour and a half of hearing us reminisce about season 3, they've earned it, I think, Rebecca. A little hint about what's coming next for the podcast, because next week, well, I can tell you right now, next week is not the start of season 4. In fact, season 4 has been, technically postponed a little while, as we're going to play something else. We're going to play not another game, but another adventure. We are taking a detour next week, and for the next few weeks, I have no idea how long it's going to be, to the red planet of Akaton, with multiple special episodes of Cosmic Crit. That's right. You guys are going to be creating all new level 1 characters for the adventure Junker's Delight by Jason Keeley and Misha Bushyager, starting next week, which is you guys need to finish some characters, right?
I need to get working on that.
Right. I believe that was called
kidding.
by one person on the
pages.
Discord. One person on the Discord got that.
Oh yeah, no, I forget who
It was James.
It was James. James calls too much stuff, and I think I confirmed it with him. He's like, "You're too smart for your own good."
We all got really silent when he said that. We were like,
it just came.
Don't call us out.
When you're listening to this, it just came out at the end of July or the beginning of August, and spoiler warning, it's really good. And it's gonna be really fun. It's gonna be a nice little palate cleanser before we get into high level play again, moving from level 13 to 13. So it's technically a break between the seasons. This is not season 4. This is not a mini season. It's just some adventures. But yeah, with some new and old PCs going on a little fun adventure. You guys excited for a fun expedition?
I'm very excited because this seems heavily Western influenced.
Oh yeah,
and
Dusty Red Planet.
I just love that genre so much, and so I've had a ton of fun writing the backstory for this.
Oh, no spoilers about your character, but all new characters, and we might see some familiar faces here and there. Now that we are firmly back in the Pact Worlds. Singular world. I think I already mentioned this to you guys, but no starship combat in this story. So we'll see how long it goes. It is a level 1 to 4 adventure path. You can pick it up right now if you want to play it before we start playing next week, or if you want to just read it and see how wrong we get it. Junker's Delight. That's going to do it, right? So we'll catch you guys back here for a very special kickoff episode for these mini episodes.
I'm sorry, just to be clear, so we have Junker's Delight, and then season 4, in case anyone missed it, is Devastation Ark, right?
Devastation Ark. We have made some general announcements, but that is the return of Knack, Alindra, and Andis, Raimi, and Adros at level 13, and we are going to be making more announcements as we get closer to that and to episode 200 in the coming months. But do a little palate cleanser before we start that, because it is a little intense going from a god host boss fight to more level 13 combat. Trust me, this is gonna be, and I'm very excited for all of our listeners to meet these level 1 characters. Level 1 is special because you get to meet somebody brand new, and I don't think we're going to disappoint anybody at all. This is going to be wild.
Well, and I like shorter campaigns because you can take more risks that way, you know?
Oh, yeah. And I'm going to be murderizing you guys good at lower levels, just really cranking up the difficulty. Thank you guys for playing with me all this season and the last 3 seasons.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, Patrick.
Listeners, thanks for sticking with Cosmic Crit, and we will see you next week for Junker's Delight. Bye-bye. So
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Night.
Bye to all these characters.
Toodles.
I'm not ready.
Oh, you're going to have to fight the Brood Soul eventually, so don't you worry. You forgot all about that.
I forgot about
Brood Soul's coming back for you, buttholes.
No, I need to make Devastation into a Vanguard.
an officially licensed partner of Paizo Incorporated. The Starfinder role-playing game and adventure paths are trademarks of Paizo. All Pathfinder and Starfinder images are property of Paizo and are used with permission.